Greetings everyone, Lindsay Donald here with the blog for Portrait of a Legend and Other Folks. It's a book where I, amongst with other friends now, are trying to put together so that this book will be out in August next year, 2012. Now, for the past few months on Facebook, I've been posting stuff on my page relating to the book. Today, something very important happened. I've got here, it's an envelope, and in the envelope there are 2 copies of articles that were done in 1981 when I was in a place called Joplin, Missouri. Now, I'm going to tell you a little sidetrack. You know, I ended up spending 3 years in Africa during the mid-70s. When I went to Africa, starting from my mother and everybody, they actually thought I was crazy. The reason why, they said, Lindsay, you're going to Africa, yet you don't know anybody in Africa. And really, it's true, I didn't know one soul in Africa. The reason why I went to Africa was him up there. He said, Lindsay, you've got to go to Africa because there's certain things you have to learn, and the only place you can learn it is by going to Africa. So I ended up going to Africa, getting malaria about 5 times, being in detention with a man who killed a president, meeting the black president, who is Mr. Fela Kuti, and literally having what I call was a foundation of who I am and what I am now. So there are many journeys, it appears, that we have to make. We really don't know why we're going to make them, but just like animals, they do it by nature. They just instinctively know they have to deal with a certain thing. Alright, I'm going to start with read you these 2 copies of articles, and they relate to the book Portrait of a Legend and Other Folks. Photographer of musician robbed. Theft of film negates man's plan. By Debbie Woodin, Globe staff writer. It is difficult to prove to someone who has not seen the physical evidence that something has vanished, was never really there. Take for instance the case of Lindsay Donald. About noon Friday, Donald came off Interstate 44 ramp onto Main Street to have some lunch at a hamburger restaurant. Alongside South Main Street, or Hearns Boulevard, he left his bags containing a Pentax camera, some clothes, and a briefcase full of negatives he had developed. He had left the bags beside the road while he popped into Ed's Dairy Cream, 4224 Main Street, where for about $1.50 he bought a burger and a cola. After eating his lunch, he returned to the highway to begin another leg of his journey to the West Coast. But his belongings were gone. A few minutes later, he re-entered the restaurant where he asked the manager if he could call the police to report his bags as stolen. He was about in tears, said Joe Rainey, manager of the restaurant. So, realizing Donald's plight, Rainey drove him to the Salvation Army to see if Donald could get some help. Donald was also went to the police department and filed a report on the stolen items. The Salvation Army provided him with a place to stay for the night, a change of clothes, and a meal. But it is not the loss of his clothing, his identification, or the few dollars he had tucked away in his bags, or even being robbed of his camera, that Donald regrets. It is what he said he had recorded on the film that he wished he had back. Donald claimed that among the negatives were sheets of processed films he had taken during the last tour of reggae musician Bob Marley. Marley was renowned for making contemporary reggae popular in the United States, England and Europe, and had become a political and cultural symbol for the people in his homeland of Jamaica. He lived through an assassination attempt, but he did not survive a bout with cancer that rendered him bedridden earlier during a concert tour this year and took his life this summer. Donald, a tall, slim black man who said he hails from Kingston, Jamaica, discussed Marley's meaning to the Jamaican people and his death. Marley, he said, a Rastafari or a believer in the traditions of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, was a philosophical freedom fighter in the struggle of the black race and descendants of black Africans to be free of white domination and to take pride in historical heritage. Rasta really is roots, and Rastas are people who do things simple, Donald said. A good Rasta wants to help you, he explained. Donald said he is also a Rasta, and that while living in Jamaica, he had a professional photography studio where Marley, who had not yet broken into stardom, came several years ago for photographs of himself and his band. I will correct that. I think maybe Debbie upped that a bit. That's not true, but we will go along, okay? Later, Donald said he joined the Marley troupe as a tour photographer and had accompanied the band through the United States, capturing Marley on film on Marley's concert. Donald said he rejoined the Marley tour until it was cancelled because of Bob's illness. Donald said other crew and band members returned last month to home, to Europe or wherever they could, but he was without money. I have been trying to struggle since then. That's me telling them that. But everything is for a purpose. The big boss, he planned for everything, Donald proclaimed in his foreign enunciation. They say that I'm fucking foreign, man. I don't think so. But anyway, let's go on. Had the tour continued, I wouldn't be here, Donald said. He said he set out to hitchhike across the United States to get to Los Angeles, California, where he was to meet with a photographer, author, to use his pictures in a book about Marley's life. And actually that is true, because the reason why I was hitchhiking across America was there was, I've forgotten his damn name now, but Bob had died 4 or 5 months earlier, and there was a lot of interest about Bob, and I was actually taking these pictures to meet him to see if he could put it into his book. That was the plan until his baggage disappeared Friday. Donald said his plans now are somewhat in limbo, except that he still wants to make it to California where he has friends. Maybe there he can re-establish himself. And though he might replace his clothes, his camera, or the passport he was granted to leave Jamaica, he believes his negatives are probably gone forever. It is hard to sell a book on photographs. A person says he once had, unless by chance they would be returned. It is equally as difficult to make someone believe they were ever there. But Donald says they were. I don't know if you see, that was a picture of me in 1981. This was at the Joplin Globe in their office. Now, this article was printed on, it came out, I believe it was August the 22nd, 1981. Now, it came out on the Saturday. The bags were stolen, or not stolen. My bags went bed hopping on the Fridays. This first story came out on the Saturday. And, you know, when I first read it, it was a question that they did not believe what I was saying. But I tell you, we all have a God, and my God was there. Respect.